Thank you for joining me. Now, the title of your book, I have it here, Technology is Not the Problem. It sounds like quite a clear statement of intent. Actually, in the book itself, you're a bit more ambivalent about technology, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's quite a long book, so I do have to unpack the problem with a bit more nuance. But I think I went for that title, which was originally the subtitle, because it's a bit like, this is what it said, you know, it does what it says on the tin.
Yes.
Technology is not the problem because we're the problem.
Yes.
And we're the problem because we're obsessed with ourselves and having ourselves reflected back to us, and the technology just does that.
So perhaps you could talk us through the key argument of the book, then. I mean, you're talking about the way in which we've become, you know, dependent on technology. We've sort of outsourced a lot of stuff. We're accepting our data sharing. But what this means is that the computers and the algorithms are creating versions of us that are tailored, I suppose. And that we've become dependent on that?
In some ways, yes. I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. They collect data about us from everything we do, because everything we do involves digital data mostly. And then it will build a profile like a virtual Andrew, and then it will target virtual Andrew with not just adverts, but also news feeds, entertainments, everything. Even your travel plans. Use an app, and it will tailor your travel to, you know, here's the convenient route for you. But I started off trying to describe how that happens, and then I just got more and more interested in, but why is this the technology that we have? Because we do kind of know now that our data's being collected all the time, and we kind of hate it and find it creepy, but we also keep going back. So in another way, I think we like it, and so I just started zooming out and going, all right, well, what is this world we live in? This is the technology. But what is it about the world that makes us so susceptible to technology that promises that everything in your life will be personalised to you, Andrew, and your uniquely discerning taste in whatever, biscuits?
Yeah, you've read me right. But that's the problem, is that, you know, we constantly complain about these Alexas that we have in our house, or the way in which our smartphones are basically concocting versions of us, but we still do it.
Yes.
We still go back to it, which suggests, as you suggest in the book, there is some kind of need that we have.
Yeah.
Not that the technology is creating the need, but that we have created the technology to satisfy the need. Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, obviously, the technology is not actually tailored for our convenience necessarily. It's tailored for the people who have made the technology, or the customers of the people, whether those are, you know, people selling advertising or whatever. But it's tapped into something, which is this very deep need in us, in society, to have our identities affirmed. Because we're not entirely sure who we are. It's like, on the one hand, who you are is the most important thing. And if someone disrespects who you are or doesn't see you the way you want to be seen, that's, you know, I think people genuinely feel that as a personal attack.
Yes.
That, like, they no longer really exist. But we're not exactly sure who we are unless that's reflected back to us all the time, and we get constant confirmation that we are who we want to be seen as.
So that's very interesting, because, I mean, you mentioned Sam Smith, for example, as one example of someone who announced that he wanted to be referred to with they, them pronouns. Everyone went along with it because it signals something new in society, doesn't it? Something more about, I suppose, the elevation of the self, or the commodification of the self.
Yeah, commodification of the self is a very good way to put it, actually. I mean, I included Sam Smith because Sam Smith's 2019 announcement on, I think, Instagram was actually really eloquent, actually spelled out perfectly what this is all about. And it ended with something like, I hope you can see me like I see myself now.
Interesting.
And I think that just sums it up perfectly. It's like, we want to be seen like we see ourselves. And then you design algorithms that say everything in this algorithm has been planned because we have looked at you and how you are and what you've done, and we're going to feed you back exactly what reflects who you are.
It sounds like narcissism.
Oh, it's complete narcissism. Yeah. I mean, I was reading Christopher Lash's wonderful book, The Age of Narcissism, The Culture of Narcissism. And it's like he's describing today. He says the narcissist sees the world as a mirror, and everything has to be reflected back to you. And then you look at the front of his book, and it came out in 1979.
Wow.
So it predates the internet, it predates social media.
Yes. Oh, I mean, Narcissus is an ancient tale.
Well, yeah, Narcissus goes back to ancient Greece. But this idea that we see the world as a mirror that should reflect us back to ourselves goes back before the technology. Yes, of course. But the technology is the perfect way to keep feeding that, because it gives you these little rewards, but never quite enough that they go, OK, now I feel completely satisfied, I know who I am, I can just walk away now. But there's a problem here, isn't there? I mean, you describe how these algorithms are creating a digital version
of us. But you yourself took a psychometric test, and did it not come back as you were a 30-year-old man?
I'm a 30-year-old man, yes. Yes, so
Which
I
you're
did.
not.
I'm not, actually. No, I'm not a 30-year-old man.
So doesn't
but
that
Twitter
suggest they're
thinks
getting
I
it
am.
wrong?
Oh, yes.
And
No,
what
they
do
get it wrong all the time. Because it's not like, you know, if I know you and you know me, we're two humans kind of interacting, going like, well, I know what it's like to be human, and you're a human, so I'm going to assume that being you is a bit like being me. But these are not humans, these are machines that are just taking statistical models and saying, well, so this is why it thinks I'm a 30-year-old man, because statistically, other people who gave similar answers to me and whose social media activity was similar to mine were 30-year-old men, or maybe they just said they were 30-year-old men. You know, they don't actually know
Well, they
this.
use that to predict your tastes, don't they, effectively?
Yes, exactly, yeah. So it's like, well, you know, you are similar to these other people in this massive multidimensional mathematical model we're building, and that's what we know about you.
So what are the downsides of that? I mean, a lot of people complain, don't they, when they see adverts pop up about things they've been talking about recently, and they get very nervous about that. They think this is very, like they're being stalked or something. But on the other hand, it's quite handy, because people are only sending me information about stuff I want to know about. So what's the downside?
Well, I think there's a narrower downside, which is that if you only get stuff about things you're already interested in, your tastes aren't going to expand, and you will actually become more and more similar to the profile of you that is being targeted.
You turn into the avatar they've created.
Yeah, because that's the universe that's being created around you.
Yes.
But I think there's a more profound problem, which is that you become a passive version of yourself. You're no longer driving your life. You're no longer saying, well, you know, what do I want to do with my life? What's the impact I want to have on the world? You're only thinking about, you know, who am I and what is this saying about me?
Yeah.
what I'm putting out there, what is this saying about me? What are other people going to think about me? How does my life reflect me?
Yes.
And you're not actually out there creating anything in the world. And so I don't think you can really be a complete person like that.
Yes.
Ironically, the more obsessed you are with yourself and the world reflecting you back to yourself...
Well, you can't grow.
Exactly, and you can't change. You can't... I mean, you think about the other great thing about humans knowing each other is somebody might see something in you that you don't see in yourself. So they might say, actually, I think you have great potential, and, you know, I could... Great teachers see that. They say, you know, you could... Actually, you've got a bit of talent. You could be a great writer. You could be a great musician. You could be good at football. I can work with you to bring that person into existence who doesn't exist yet. But the algorithms are not going to do that, because they like, this is who you are, and now we're going to give you stuff it's designed to please that person you already are.
So if it's the case that the algorithms are simply cultivating a version of you which is effectively narrowing your potential, what can we actually, on a practical level, do about that? Because do we not live in a world where we are now reliant on these kinds of systems? Can we break this? Can we say, no, I'm going to turn off the smartphone. No, I'm not going to have an Alexa in my house. No, I'm going to ignore what big tech tells me I should be.
It's not very practical to do that. I really don't. I think only a very few privileged people can actually dispense all that, because that is how so much of our lives is carried on. What I think is more important is that you change your attitude to it and say, I am going to use this to do the thing that I think is important. I'm going to use this to connect with other humans and do things with other humans and decide why I'm using it and what for, rather than just going, well, actually, this is all very convenient, and I get here's a menu of things that somebody has already selected for me, and I'm just going to pick one of those things.
Which comes back to the title of your book. Technology is not the problem. It's the way that we choose to use it. This is what you're arguing.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, the problem is the way that we lean on technology to reassure us about who we are, that we are to see me how I see myself. Whereas I mean, the technology is amazing. You think about, you can get information about anything humans have done almost, and you can communicate instantly with people all over the world. Just think of the things that we can do with it.
Yes, well, and finally on this, I mean, this idea that if we have technology to support our lives, it will free us up to become more artistic, more creative. What Oscar Wilde was saying in The Soul of Man Under Socialism, that we can effectively... The way the ancient Greeks had slaves so they could spend all their time philosophizing, right? Is this actually real?
Well, it's not at the moment. That's the thing. It's this lovely phrase, digital Athens, that instead of the slaves doing the work so that the male citizens could be philosophers and talk politics, we will have the robots to do that.
Yes.
And actually, I think it's more like digital Wolf Hall, where you've got a house full of servants, like Alexa and your smartphone and everything, but they're actually working for other masters. So, yes, they'll bring what you order, but they're also reporting back on you to companies probably in Silicon Valley and probably filtering what comes to you to please other masters that we will never know about.
Yeah, when you put it like that, it does sound sinister, I have to be honest. But look, congratulations on the book. It's out now, isn't it?
It's out now, yes. It was out from Thursday, so
Wonderful.
It's very hot off the press.
Fantastic. Timandra, thanks so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
It's lovely to see you.
Thank you.